Let me start with a question. Have you ever noticed how people treat failure like it's some kind of deadly disease? The moment they fall, the moment something doesn't work, they act like life is over. But here's the truth nobody tells you. Failure is not your enemy. It's actually success in disguise wearing a funny mask. Yes, you heard me right. Success and failure are not opposites, they are partners. They're like that weird couple you see at a restaurant. They argue, they laugh, they fight, but they can't live without each other. Think about it. Every success story you admire is built on a long trail of failures. Edison didn't invent the light bulb on attempt number 1. He failed so many times, people thought he was crazy. Michael Jordan, the greatest basketball player, missed thousands of shots before becoming a legend. Oprah was told she wasn't fit for TV. Imagine that. Today, she owns half the TV world. Here's the funny part: failure is like that annoying personal trainer at the gym. While you're lifting weights and struggling, they're standing over you yelling, "One more rep." You hate it in the moment, but later you realize they were building your strength. That's exactly what failure does. It pushes you, it embarrasses you, it stretches you, but in the process it builds the muscle of success. Most people run away from failure because they're afraid of being judged. But what they don't realize is that success is waiting on the other side of those failed attempts. It's like playing a video game. You can't reach the next level without dying a few times. Every time you fail, you learn the patterns, you get sharper, and eventually, you win. And here's where it gets interesting. Failure actually gives success its flavor. Imagine eating cake every single day. No struggle, no challenge, just endless sweetness. After a while, you'd get bored. Success without failure is like sugar without coffee. Too sweet, no meaning, no depth. It's failure that makes success taste so good. So instead of fearing failure, start befriending it. Treat it like that brutally honest friend who doesn't sugarcoat things. You may not like what they say, but they're the reason you grow. Failure is the first teacher of success, let's be honest. Nobody likes failure. It feels embarrassing, painful, sometimes even humiliating. But here's the twist. Failure is the very first teacher you'll ever meet on the road to success. It's the professor who doesn't smile, doesn't give free grades, but gives you the exact lessons you need. Think back to when you were a kid learning to walk. Did you just stand up one day and start moonwalking like Michael Jackson? Nope. You fell, you cried, you bumped your head. But each fall was a class, each bruise a lesson, and eventually, you walked. Imagine if babies gave up after their first fall. The human race would still be crawling. Failure is exactly like that in adult life. Every mistake you make is not proof that you're weak. It's proof that you're learning. When you touch a hot stove once, you don't forget the pain. Failure is that stove. It burns, but it also makes sure you never touch it the same way again. Here's the fun example. Think of failure like a GPS. When you take the wrong turn, it doesn't scream, "You're the worst driver ever. Give up now." It simply says, "Recalculating route." That's what failure does. It redirects you, shows you the path you missed, and makes sure you don't waste years going the wrong way. The problem is, most people drop out of class after the first lecture. They fail once and say, "That's it, I'm done." But successful people, they stay in the classroom of failure long enough to graduate into success. Failure is the first teacher, and like any good teacher, it's strict. It gives you tough exams before the reward. But if you keep showing up to class, eventually, you master the subject called success. Failure builds resilience. Success rewards it. Everybody loves the word success, but not many people want to deal with its twin brother, failure. The truth is, success gives you trophies, but failure gives you toughness. Failure is like life's version of a gym trainer. You walk in thinking you're strong, and then failure throws weight after weight at you until your muscles shake. You hate it in the moment, but months later you look in the mirror and realize you're stronger than you ever thought possible. Think about it. When was the last time success taught you something deep? Success feels good, but it makes you comfortable. You celebrate, you relax, you enjoy the applause. But failure walks in, slaps the comfort out of your hands, and says, "Get back up, you're not done yet." That's where resilience is born. Here's a fun example. Imagine playing a video game where you win every single level on your first try. Sounds cool for 10 minutes, right? But soon you'd get bored. The real excitement comes when you fail, retry, fail again, and finally beat the boss after your 20th attempt. That victory feels legendary because failure built the resilience that made you push through. Resilience is like a shield. Without it, every little setback feels like the end of the world. But with it, you take the hit, bounce back, and keep moving. And here's the twist. When success finally arrives, it doesn't just reward your talent, it rewards your resilience. People admire you not because you had it easy, but because you stood tall after life knocked you down. Failure is the training ground where resilience is forged, and success is simply the medal you receive for surviving the battle. Failure exposes weakness, success covers it. Here's something most people don't realize: success can be a liar. When you succeed, people clap, you feel good, and sometimes you start believing you're flawless. Success often hides your weaknesses under the shiny glow of victory. But failure has no filter. It grabs a megaphone and shouts your flaws right in your face. Think about it like this: when you pass an exam with a lucky guess, you feel smart. But the moment you fail, you suddenly realize, oh wait, maybe I didn't really understand the subject. Failure shows you the cracks in your foundation before life builds a skyscraper on it. Here's a fun example. Imagine going to the gym and only doing the exercises you're already good at. You look great in the mirror, right? But one day, someone asks you to lift a weight you never trained for, and suddenly your weakness is exposed. That's failure. It doesn't care how good you look on the outside. It reveals the muscles you've been ignoring. Success can make you comfortable. You hit one goal and think, I've made it. But failure is the strict coach that says, not so fast, you still have work to do. And honestly, that's a blessing. Because if failure didn't expose your weaknesses, you'd never fix them. You'd carry them forward, and one day, they'd collapse your entire dream. Failure is like a leak in your boat. You don't notice it when the waters are calm. But once the storm hits, those tiny cracks become dangerous. That's why failure showing you your weakness is actually a gift. It's saying, fix this now so you don't sink later. So while success covers your flaws with applause, failure points them out with tough love. And that exposure, that's what helps you grow into the kind of person success can't break. Failure gives humility. Success gives confidence. Success and failure are like the ultimate tag team. Success walks in with a crown, giving you confidence. Failure walks in with a hammer, knocking that crown off and reminding you to stay humble. And honestly, both are necessary. Because here's the thing, confidence without humility turns into arrogance, and humility without confidence turns into weakness. You need both, and life makes sure you get both by giving you wins and losses. Think about it like driving a car. Success is the gas pedal. It pushes you forward, makes you feel unstoppable. But failure is the brake. Without it, you'd crash at full speed. Both are part of the same journey. Here's a fun example. Imagine if you played basketball and never missed a single shot. At first, you'd feel like a superhero. But soon, you'd start bragging, I'm the best, nobody can touch me. Then one day, you miss. The ball bounces off the rim, and suddenly you remember, you're human. That one miss, that's failure giving you humility. It keeps your feet on the ground while your confidence shoots for the sky. The beauty of failure is that it protects you from your own ego. It whispers, don't forget where you came from. And the beauty of success is that it protects you from self-doubt. It reminds you, don't forget what you're capable of. Some of the greatest leaders in history had both. Humility shaped by failure and confidence shaped by success. That's why people follow them. Nobody wants to follow someone who thinks they're perfect, but nobody wants to follow someone who doubts themselves either. The mix of humility and confidence creates true influence. So failure, with all its bruises and lessons, doesn't come to break you. It comes to balance you. It makes sure success doesn't go to your head, while success makes sure failure doesn't go to your heart. Failure creates stories, success creates results. Here's the funny thing about life: when you succeed, people clap for you. When you fail, people laugh at you. But after some time, guess which one people remember more deeply? The story of your failure. Because let's be honest, success shows your results, but failure gives you the kind of stories that inspire, entertain, and even teach. Success is like the trophy on the shelf. Nice to look at, sure, but failure is the battle scar you can proudly show and say, see this. This is where I fell, but I got back up. Think about your favorite movies or sports moments. Is it the flawless victory you remember most, or the comeback after a devastating fall? It's always the story of the underdog, the person who was down 99 times, but still stood up the 100th. Failure writes those epic, goosebump-filled stories. Here's a fun example. Imagine telling your kids someday, I started a business and it became successful right away. Okay, good story. But imagine instead, I started 3 businesses. The first one collapsed in 6 months. The second one almost bankrupted me. But the third changed my life. Which story do you think your kids will remember forever? Exactly. The one filled with failure, lessons, and finally, triumph. Success gives you results that prove you can do it. But failure gives you stories that prove you're human, resilient, and unstoppable. People connect more to your failures than your wins because they see themselves in your struggles. That's why so many great motivational speeches, biographies, and legends are built not around perfect success, but around powerful failures. Edison didn't inspire the world by saying, "I invented the light bulb." He inspired the world when he said, "I found 10,000 ways that didn't work." Success might give you a destination, but failure gives you the story of the journey. And honestly, the journey is where the magic happens. Failure builds patience. Success builds excitement. If success is like a fireworks show, then failure is like waiting in line to buy the ticket. Success gives you that adrenaline rush, the thrill of the "yes, I did it" moment. But failure is the long, boring, sometimes painful waiting room of life. And believe it or not, that waiting room is where patience is built. See, patience isn't built when everything is going smoothly. Nobody learns patience when Wi-Fi is fast, coffee is hot, and traffic is clear. Patience is built when your phone freezes at 2%, when your Amazon delivery says, "delayed," or when your boss says, "we'll get back to you in 6 months." That's failure in small doses. It forces you to wait, to breathe, and to endure. Now let's make it fun. Imagine baking cookies. Success is eating the warm, gooey cookie straight from the oven. Exciting, right? But failure is burning the first batch, throwing it away, and realizing, oh, maybe I should set the timer. That's patience. It's the art of waiting and adjusting so that the next batch actually tastes right. Here's the secret: patience is what keeps you grounded when success arrives. Because let's be real, success can make you hyper, sometimes even reckless. You land a deal, win an award, or crush a goal, and suddenly you want everything right now. But failure, with its long waiting seasons, trains you to pace yourself. It says, calm down. Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither is your dream. Think about some of the most successful people in the world. Their patience was forged in failure. Oprah was rejected from her first TV job. Walt Disney was told he lacked imagination. J.K. Rowling's book was rejected by 12 publishers. That waiting, that rejection, that failure, it didn't just test them, it trained them. It taught them to wait for their moment without giving up. So success builds your excitement. It's the spark that keeps you hungry. But failure builds your patience. It's the wisdom that keeps you steady. One gives you the fire, the other gives you the fuel. And when both come together, you don't just chase success. You sustain it. Failure builds character. Success builds reputation. Here's the truth. Success will make people know you, but failure will make you know yourself. Success builds your reputation, the shiny picture the world sees. But failure goes backstage behind the curtains and builds your character, the raw, unfiltered version of who you really are. Think about it: when you succeed, people start labeling you genius, talented, lucky, hardworking. That's your reputation. But when you fail, nobody's clapping, nobody's cheering. That's when you sit with yourself and ask, am I really strong enough to keep going? Am I willing to stand back up after this fall? That's where your character is forged. Here's a fun way to look at it: success is like Instagram. Perfect photos, smiling faces, everything looks polished. But failure is like the camera roll on your phone, the messy, awkward, behind-the-scenes pictures nobody sees. And yet those ugly pictures, they're real. They tell the true story. That's what character is. It's not what you show to the world, it's who you are when the world isn't watching. Let's add a little humor. Imagine a video game. Success is when your character unlocks a shiny new armor. Everyone says, wow, look at that. But failure is when you get knocked out in the game, lose your health, and have to restart at level 1. Annoying, yes. But what happens? You learn the patterns, you sharpen your skills, you figure out how to dodge that one sneaky enemy. And guess what? Next time, you don't just survive, you dominate. That's character. The beauty of failure is that it strips away the fake applause. It doesn't care about your reputation. It cares about your resilience. It cares about how you treat people when you're under pressure. It cares about whether you stand up with dignity or collapse with excuses. Because here's the difference: reputation is what people say about you. Character is what you say to yourself when no one else is around. And the only way to build a rock solid character is through falling, failing, and getting back up stronger than before. So while success paints the picture people admire, failure chisels the sculpture people respect. Success may open doors, but it's your character, built through failure, that keeps you inside the room once you walk in. So, here's the big picture: success and failure aren't enemies. They're dance partners. One leads, the other follows, and together they create the rhythm of growth. Success will give you the applause, but failure will give you the lessons. Success will bring you the spotlight, but failure will prepare you to stand in it without melting. Think of life like a comedy show. Success is the punchline that makes the crowd laugh, but failure is the awkward pause, the slip-up, the blooper reel that makes the story unforgettable. If you only had perfect punchlines with no bloopers, the show would be boring. It's the mix of both that keeps people entertained and inspired. Here's a fun example. Imagine riding a bicycle for the first time. Success is pedaling smoothly with the wind in your face. Failure, that's falling over, scraping your knee, and getting laughed at by your neighbors. But what happens next? You get back on, wobbling, shaky, but determined. And one day you're not just riding. You're racing down the street like a champion. And the funny thing is, when you look back years later, you'll laugh more about the falls than the smooth rides. That's life. Your reputation may be built on your successes, but your strength, your wisdom, your humor, and your humanity are all built on your failures. Without failure, success would feel hollow. Without success, failure would feel endless. But together, they create balance, the sweet and sour sauce of life. So the next time you fail, don't bury your head in shame, smile a little. Because maybe, just maybe, this failure is the chapter that makes your success story unforgettable. After all, the most inspiring people in the world aren't the ones who never fell. They're the ones who kept standing back up, with a scar on their knee and a grin on their face.